Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Lines on a Page. I am your host, Thomas Price, the poor man's Bob Ross. Uh, I do apologize for not being here last week in order to do episode 6. I was basically coming back from Savannah Comic Con, and by the time I got back home, it would have been way past the time to try to do it anyways. So here we are this week, episode 6. And we are basically going to be talking about perspective and using it within the character of the Flash, and also just talking about different ways of how to show a character in motion within the use of perspective. So with that in mind, see we've got a couple of things going on in the comments. Hey, Kyle, hope you're doing well. And I'm also going to quickly put down in the comments section materials used for today. And originally, it was planned for me to do everything traditional, but I am doing it digital today. It's still lines on a page. It's just done differently. Yeah. So moving on. Today we're going to be, like I said earlier, using a character such as the Flash and try to use it within a character that is in motion. And so if we zip on over to our little thing right here. So we're going to be talking about two different types of perspective. So when we're thinking of perspective, let me drop this over here. When we're thinking about perspective, typically the mainstay is that you obviously have your horizon line, and then you have the point of where things are going to be falling into place, which is true, and it's also very accurate and still used to this day. But when we're thinking about perspective, what doesn't get talked about is that there's kind of two different types of perspective. So we've got a more fixed perspective, which is what I just talked about earlier, having the horizon line, you have the points, sometimes multiple points, but then we also have what's known as forced perspective, which is taking things that are already in line with the perspective, and we're basically forcing it, we're bending it to give it more motion, to give it more energy within the piece. Perfect example is, whenever you're seeing the Flash moving at, speed of light, basically, it's almost looking like his body is stretched a bit. Another perfect example, if you watch anime, One Punch Man would be a perfect example. A lot of the action scenes look like it's just super exaggerated, but it's causing a situation of forced perspective of how Saitama is landing his punches. Which, if we're using this camera right here as an idea, so because we're looking at everything within like a flat pane, there is something that's known as a fisheye lens, which is basically if you took, instead of it being in a square, it would be a circle, and everything that would be a complete XY axis is bending up and down, and it's bending east to west, and it's kind of creating a really weird forced perspective going on into it. Another two ways of using forced perspective, but kind of in a fixed position, is the top-down look, where everything that is, or what's known as a bird's eye view, which is anything that is closest to you will look big, while everything that goes down towards the bottom looks small. And then you have the bottom-up view, or the anti-view, which is everything that is on the bottom looking up is big, and it just kind of gets smaller and smaller the way you keep on looking up. It's think of it like if you were walking downtown and you were looking at a skyscraper. Well, you can't exactly see the very top of the peak, but you do know that when you're looking at it in the perspective, it's getting smaller, smaller, smaller. same as if you were standing at the very top of a skyscraper looking down towards the street. You can't see everyone that's down there, but things are getting smaller the more you look down. So, with that being said, a few more comics. Josh Olive in the chat. Hope you had a great show this past weekend. It was an interesting show. If we're being honest, and if I was going to rate it on a 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high, I would give it a straight 5, right down the middle. It was, I was coming into the show, already knew what I was getting into, so the expectations were kind of low. But even with it being like a 2-day show, it's kind of weird that the day that you would think, well, it's completely dead, so I'm not going to be getting anything, ends up being the day I ended up making absolute bank. And then the day that just happens to be super busy, I made $25. So the the logic does not match whatsoever, compared to Savannah. Whereas day one, super crazy, making loads of money of just everything that was doing, commissions, prints, sketchbook sales, all that sort of stuff. And then day two, it was a bit died down and a bit tame within the sales. So the logic with the Huntsville Comic Con this past weekend was out the window. I think there was a consensus with several people, not just people that were stopping by my table, but also some other people that were there, that it didn't really make any sense why the guest artists were downstairs on the first floor, shuffled away in a back room with the rest of the feature guests, and not upstairs in the artist alley with the rest of the artists in the artist alley. It didn't make any sense. And a lot of people were trying to figure out where Kevin and Jason were. Apparently there weren't signs up or something like that, but it's one of several different things that could have been done better, but it's done and over with. I'm sure next year would be better. But moving on, we're going to go back over here and get the frame correct. Okay. All right. So fixed and forced. So with that in mind, we're going to look at two different types of bodies in motion. So in this case, we're going to be drawing the Flash later, but I want to kind of give you an idea of what we're working with. So if we're looking at just a typical body in motion, let's say, we got someone that's running. And when we're looking at someone who is running, typically their arms are also in motion. And I know this looks super duper sketchy, but it's just to give you the idea of what we're talking about here. So we can say that this body is in motion. We get the idea that this person is running, possibly jogging, but it's not looking like they're really doing like what we're wanting them to do. It's good. It can work. If we're thinking of it in terms of just like a simple still, sort of situation. But it, in the words of Maxwell Lord, it could be better. So with that in mind, let's think about the same figure that we just did, but let's give it some more motion. Let's give it some more depth. And we're going to use the same kind of situation with, arms, legs in their, I guess, same height, bend back, forward situation. Words is hard today. But you know what? It's a Monday. So, look back here, and we're going to give this person now this person looks like they are about to look like they're they're about to go somewhere. They're about to get to where they need to. It's a weird blocky foot. Okay. And then, so now that we have these two figures, both of them are technically correct. But the problem with number one is that it's a bit too static. And it's okay. And like I said, it could be a lot better. But it doesn't look like there's much of, it's in motion, but it doesn't really look like it's in motion. So if we go over to number two, it's more dynamic. It's a lot better. And we're getting the sense of the idea that this person is determined to get to where they need to, because we can tell their body is hunched down. They're looking like they're, trying to get to, from point A to point B. It could be anyone from, your random morning runner to someone who trains for a marathon to a baton race to uh, from the GI Joes is trying to stop Cobra Commander and he has to run out a hallway through gunfire. I mean, it could be any number of things. But the point being is that number two gives you that sense that it is a body in motion, and it's giving you that sense. Now, here is where we take number two, that body in motion, and we're going to start putting it in a force perspective context. And so going back to a couple minutes ago, when I was talking about examples of force perspective in media, the interesting thing is that even though you can still do perspective lines in terms of, horizon point and all that, got hiccups going on. Even though you can do that, there are depending on the situation and how it's put together, whether if it's in a panel or if it's just something that you're doing on your own, you can technically get away without having to put the whole perspective grid down and figuring it out. But it is nice to have that as a backup in case you're ever in a situation where it's just like something about this doesn't seem right. And it's looking like we have someone over here. Wally, you know what? I'm not sure. We could do Wally. We could do crap, I forgot the name of the first Flash. Man, you had to say names. Gosh, what's his name? What's his name? He was in the JSA. I'm about to look this up real quick. Jay Garrick. Yeah. I mean, we could do Jay, we could do Wally, we could do Barry, whatever. Flash. Uh, so I don't know. I'm originally leaning on Barry, but we can definitely do Wally. Wally sounds good, so let's do Wally. Why not? So, okay. So now that we've got the whole situation, as far as just understanding the difference between static, okay, to dynamic, better, we're going to try and put this into an actual sketch. So I'm going to flip this over to a new page. And for the sake of us drawing a Flash type character, and so that you guys can see what's going on, let me see how thick a little too thick. Drop it down just a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. So for this under sketch, I'm going to be using a color. It's not because I'm going to be doing the entire thing in red. I'm just using it just for the sake of it. So when we're thinking about the body and how it's running, and if you guys can see, through the screen right now, if the hand is coming out forward, it's pretty obvious that it's going a lot bigger than the person's face. And this was something that should have been taught better when I was growing up, learning how to draw comics, which, if we're being honest, or at least if I'm honest, I've only had um, two actual formal art classes in school ever. Uh, and the second one that I was in, the guy in charge of it, he did kind of, draw comic book stuff on the side, uh, just for kicks and giggles. He really wasn't pursuing a career in it, but I really wish that he would have took the time to actually kind of give me an understanding a bit more in terms of perspective of using it. So if we're using our screen right here, right now, if I'm running or I'm about to lay a punch, well, it's pretty obvious. Hand is getting closer to you, so therefore it's going to be a lot bigger than my head and a lot bigger than the hand in the back. Same thing if a person is running towards the frame, and it's pretty obvious. Hand is going to be a lot bigger than the head and a lot bigger than the hand back here. And that's something that should be common sense. And you'd be surprised just how much it just doesn't really click in until it's actually taught. Or, after the damage is done and the thing's printed or out there on social media and people can see. It's really interesting perspective when the guy's head is super big and the hand is really tiny, even though it's supposed to be out there far. So, unless it's like the T Rex from Meet the Robinsons, you got a big hand, little arms. So, I don't know. Moving along. We're going to use basically the same thing as far as the head is concerned. So, trying to not make the Flash look super beefy. That's always been something that's kind of irked me a little bit about people in the past whenever they have drawn Barry, Wally, Jay. They've just made him into like this super muscular, almost like a boxer. And, he's a runner, he's not a boxer. I mean, he can definitely land some punches, but in the end, the Flash is supposed to be built like he is Mercury himself. Okay, so that's there, and All right. We are going to, whoops, do not like it when it does that. I'm going to start erasing some of this sketchiness just to clean out a little bit so you can get an idea of how everything is sitting. Probably go over that again in a moment. We could make the argument in terms of like drawing um, a character like the Flash, that you could use a swimmer's physique if you wanted to, um, because again, it is a pretty lean physique, but at the same time, there is, I would say, the right amount of muscularity. But the one part that I feel like has always been the trickiest thing is the back arm. As we know, the shoulder is there. Because if you do it too much one way or another, it just looks super alien. Or it's going to look like that really weird Ezra Miller run that he does in Justice League. God, they should have got Grant Gustin to play him in the actual movie. I don't care if people are fans of Miller's portrayal, but Gustin was the superior recent Flash. All right, so now that we have our super duper sketchy look at how the figure is built, if we are, let me drop in. Oh gosh. Okay. Maybe one of these days this thing will not just freak out on me. Drop a back layer. So we're dropping down the opacity just a little bit. We can say that the horizon point, that's not supposed to happen. Wrong layer. All right. We can say that the horizon point is right here. And it's hitting all of these sections that he's in right now, just to give you some context. So now that our eyes are understanding where everything is and how it's been put together, we can start putting things a bit more in perspective. That was a really bad pun, but we're going to go with it. All right, checking on the comments. He looks slow. Well, you know what, Alan? We're getting there. We're getting there. All right. Now we're going to start focusing on, because we're doing Wally now. That seems to work. And I keep doing this to myself, drawing on the wrong layer. All right. And I'm about to have to make a really quick reference check on Wally, because I'm trying to remember if his ears are actually covered up by the little lightning things, or if his ears are actually showing. Nope, they are covered. Okay, cool. Got that out of the way. And let's see here. Face mask. And of course, with his hair, give it a bit of a whoosh. And we're going to be throwing in some little extra effects later on in the sketch. You know, I've all realized this is like the third time I've ever drawn Wally West, and that's not good. It's always been Barry or Jay. But you know what? This is good, because it's making me rethink things. The rest of the head down real quick. right. So now just a bit. Now he's right. Looks like he's running up to high five me. You know what? He might. You never know. But then again, this is Wally, so that seems like it would be in his wheelhouse of things to do. Um, Now that I'm thinking about Flash characters, if anyone can remind me who uh, the alter ego of Impulse is, I want to say his last name was, I want to say it's Alan, but I don't remember because I know he's from the future. Um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole point of the forced perspective because, like I said, it's taking regular perspective and you're forcing it um, to work in the way that it's supposed to. So, like I said earlier, got a character that's running and he's running towards you. Chances are he's not going to be like this as far as what you're seeing coming straight at you or on your TV screen or computer screen or phone screen, whatever screen that you're watching stuff off of. It's, you know, he's going to be running straight at you. And so, therefore, things are going to be in a different way. Now, to make it even more interesting, let's check see the car. Bart Allen. That makes sense. I think you might be right on that. But then again, I probably got to rewatch. God, I think it was Young Justice that he was in. It's been forever. I just haven't really been keeping up with several different shows as of late. So now that we've got, hold on. Now that we've got the idea of where things are, which there's a reason why the forefinger right here is kind of hidden because if you're thinking about the hand and how it looks, you can see the ring, the middle, but the forefinger tends to be kind of hidden. And of course, the thumb being right here. If you watch a lot of Olympic runners, especially when you're dealing with like, what is it? It's like a 50-meter dash, 100-meter dash, whichever ones that it is. And you start looking at the either the slow mo cameras or the I guess the finish line. That's what it's called. Finish line cams, and you're looking at these runners and how angling their hands. It's almost like they're trying to swim through water, but they're not obviously in water. It's air, but it looks like they're kind of swimming just a little bit. Not as a Miller sense, but in a sense that it's almost like they're trying to slice straight through it, if that makes sense. All right. Facebook user, not sure. I wonder if this is, I'm not sure. Okay, so Bart Allen. So we got two for Bart Allen. That makes. Am I using a mouse or a stylus? I am using Stylus. This is the Wacom stylus that goes for my Wacom and 2.0's drawing tablet. But I'm basically just kind of looking at it in the sense of like I'm driving. It's not the most conducive thing, but it works. It gets me what I need to do, so I um, can't really complain. So I'm going to double check my Wally references. Okay, so he's got lightning things around the wrists and, of course, sides of his head, belt area, and the chest. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so probably need to erase that up just a bit. Or just, redo the line altogether. All right. And of course, uh, flash symbols, B4 symbol, whatever you want to call it. It's right there, sitting behind the hand. And going to like I said earlier, it's one of those things. It gets really tricky. But for all the times I've drawn the flash, it's always worked. So put that down. All right. Now, another thing that ends up being shown whenever we're dealing with, force perspective is when we start dealing with what's known as speed lines and action lines. Speed lines being if someone is about to make a quick punch, instead of just drawing what looks like a still of someone trying to throw a punch and it's in perspective, it does show, that there is weight to it, that it is happening, it is dynamic, but at the same time, it's a dynamic pick within the stack in order to make it give it the sense of that there is really fast movement or whatever. And you'll see this a lot with manga and anime that it almost looks like things are being blurred. And so we're going to be getting to that as far as just the nitty gritty details of trying to do this piece as quick as possible. And let's see here. And then of course, action lines are basically lines that are. I'm hoping I'm not confusing these two, but they're almost the same, but yet they're completely different at the same time. Uh, So it almost looks like lines that are drawn in perspective to give you the idea there's and happening within the action. All right, let's see. All right, so we are going to quickly throw down some colors on this. And try to see. I think that would be a good color. All right. Where is my. There we go. Probably get this done better using the other one. So many different brushes, so many different things to do. And try and block all of this in as quickly as I can. And I know it looks super duper messy. I do apologize for that. Go back to this line art real quick. All right. And Wally's hair was a bit more on the somewhere between red and kind of auburn look. So we're going to give it a really quick base color. And flesh tones. be throwing in another color layer on top of all of this. And that's where I'm going to be doing some little effects here and there. Because of the whole, lightning situation, and give the idea that he's running super quick through the Speed Force, and that's a really weird angular line. Near that down just a little bit. But yeah, it's just he's running, he's using the Speed Force. In the words of Ricky Bobby, I'm going fast. I'm pretty sure there are people out there that have just totally groaned and rolled their eyes at the fact that I even quoted that movie. I also kind of feel like whenever I've been doing all these really free sketches for little kids at conventions, it's been awesome to bust this stuff out in like 3 minutes, but now I'm just thinking about all the little details and stuff because I'm having to do a lot more. All right. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of that part of the background. And we're getting closer to the finish line, which is good. And do this. So if I remember correctly, all the Speed Force line stuff tends to be kind of a bright blue kind of color. And could say that brings it out in his eyes. All right. Let me go back to this and fill in some spots. All right. Will the red portion of the sketch blend in with the coloring? Does it help add any depth? Very good question. Yes. um, so what I'm going to be doing is that because I've had the base color in, there's going to be, I guess, an extra darker thing as far as just the shadows, and plus the effect that I'm going to be doing later with the airbrush tool. Hopefully, if I do this correctly, if I can remember how to do this correctly, so we're all in it for the long haul. It should work. The funny part is that there's also a tool that gives me some really interesting speed line, action line stuff. So Okay, I think that was all of them. Okay. All right, so got that down, and now we are going to work on some shading. Generally, whenever I'm drawing stuff traditionally, which, by the way, next week we will be going back to doing things traditionally. The only reason that I'm not doing it this week has just been because of that's literally all I've been doing for the past 3 weeks straight. So it's just been kind of a bit of a necessity thing as of right now to just quickly do these shows. Digitally. So it's been a lot easier to hammer all this out. And it's a little bit too much. Just easier to, like I said, easier to hammer all this stuff out and to get you guys the idea of how this stuff kind of just pieces itself together. Which I'm also thinking that with it being October, we're going to be doing a lot more spooky stuff. So if you have any suggestions of any kind of spooky, characters, whether it's, you know, characters from folklore or, Hollywood monsters or something that might go bump the night, just drop them in the comments section and I will read those. And might also at some point do some sort of polling, or I don't know, voting section, whatever it's called these days. And see where other people's heads are at. Or if their heads are off and rolling. Ah! It's a really bad Halloween joke. Since it's October, we need Werewolf by Night or The Living Mummy Show. I do agree, which the trailer for Werewolf by Night just looks awesome. Also, the new trailer for Wakanda Forever, definitely down for it. I was talking with artist friend of mine about it. Looks awesome. Definitely going to be seeing it. If not on opening night, then definitely that week. And I definitely dig, and I've said this before with anyone who's talked to me about this since they've shown stuff about it. I definitely dig the whole Central South American native look to it. as far as just drawing influences from Incans, Mayans, Aztecs into the wardrobe. Looks awesome. Uh, I just hate the fact that because of whatever situation that they couldn't call him Namor, they can't call it Atlantis. Whatever the excuse is, it feels a bit dumb, but it's there, it's done, it's over with. And of course, it is the MCU. The MCU is its own universe per se, and even though it is adapting and being inspired by current and old stuff within Marvel Comics, and that is how the cookie crumbles with that. All right. Yeah, let's see. Going back to Bart's. Bart's hair. Highlight. And let's see. What's the color? Oops. Okay, so it's got to be that one, I guess. All right. Almost looks non-existent. Okay, there it is. All right. So, zoom out just a little bit more. All right. So, we have Wally in motion. We have Wally in motion. Perspective is being forced just a bit. I'll give you the context that it is dynamic. He's moving. And so now we're going to be putting in some extra little effects just to make it all kind of come into place. So we're going to go back to this little thing back here, which looks super dumb, which is why we're going to drop the opacity on it. And now we're going to start putting this thing more into motion. And I do apologize that this is taking a bit longer than it should. So should be ending hopefully soon. And yeah. That's weird. Huh. Okay. I'll have to go back to the color. Let's see. Oh, that explains it. The wrong setting. All right. All right. Looks like we got some sketch suggest for next. Werewolf by Night, Living Mummy. Man, I can't speak today. Living Mummy. Vampirella, Constantine, Creature from Black Lagoon, or Manbat. I dig this, Alan. I dig it. I'm definitely going to keep all those in consideration. So as you can see, I'm trying to kind of blur it in just a little bit. And zoom out just a little bit. I have to add another layer now I'm thinking about it. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, get rid of that from the background. And we're going to make a bit of a background in the background. And let's try this. See if it will work. Yeah. One color. Can we see a black background? Sure, let's do that. There we go. And let's see here. Soft. All right. And we're going to be adding in a little extra effect, kind of give the idea stuff's kind of coming across this way. Oops. And it's not really a Wally unless he's got that going on with his eyes. Good his eyes, just a little glow. And I think we are basically done. Which, for having these sketches done in less than an hour, but here we are, an hour and 13 minutes later. Whoa. One of these days, I will get this correct. It is not this day. Let me blow this up just a little bit. Okay, hopefully you can see all that. All right, so as you can see, with all this done, using the effects, messing with the layers just a little bit, you get the idea that it's forced into perspective a bit. It's an object in motion, and you can tell that he is running. He is running towards you. Uh, Now we can definitely force it a bit more, but for the sake of time, this basically kind of the sketch gives you an idea of how all this is being put together. Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Kyle. All right, so I'd like to thank everyone that has showed up, has commented on just about anything today. Like I said, next week we're going to be going back to traditional because I miss doing that with you guys. And of course, because it being October, it's going to be a bit on the spooky side. So I've already got several different suggestions already in the comments. So if you want to throw in a few extra suggestions, please do. And of course, I have to do our normal housekeeping. So if you happen to like this show that's going on today, if you happen to be liking just anything involving what I do or with Haven Comics, please remember to like and subscribe. Every like, every subscribe, every comment, every share helps us immensely. Without those, it's really hard for us to, kind of share all this awesomeness with you guys every week. And if you happen to just want to know where you can find me, you can like and follow me through linktree.com/tpriceartworks. I am on Facebook, I am on Instagram, and I am on Twitter. So far, I've already done 3 events. I am taking about a small break before the last con of the year for me that I know of, which is going to be Baltimore Comic Con, and that's going to be in October 28th through 30th. And I will go to Valley. So if you happen to be in the Maryland area, specifically in Baltimore, you know where to find me, and I'll be posting more about that later. And if you want to know where Haven Comics is, we are located on Slaughter Road in Madison, Alabama. Just a decent-sized Superman pitch away from the Space and Rocket Center. So, man, that was like a really bad example. Anyways, thank you so much for coming out. And looks like we got an extra comment at the end. Would something like that print on normal printer paper, or do you have to use specific paper? You can definitely print it on normal printer paper. I don't think it's going to really matter that much, but I will say, as far as just like, if it's something that you want to have as far as like longevity, the thicker the pound paper and the type of paper you're going after will definitely make matter in the long run. I'll see you in the JPEG, Alan. Don't worry about it. We'll get to that later. All right. So again, thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a good night. Be sure to watch us on Thursday nights with Shop Talk with Josh and Alan, and we'll see you later.